Hello and welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 140. Today we're going to talk about training for outplays, why to train one-on-ones, and software for VoD reviews. For those of you who don't know, this is the Ask Weldon Show. My name is Weldon, obviously, and people call in. Mostly questions are related to sports psychology and esport training. I am a esports psychology trainer, sports psychology master's in science degree, and I've been coaching esports for a number of years, and specifically League of Legends. Although esports psychology is pretty transferable among different skills, my strategic background is in League, so that's what I'm most familiar with. And on this show, people call in, people write in, and I answer your questions. If you want to call in or write in, make sure to follow the instructions. When we get into the show, I'll explain them a little bit, but basically we use an app called Anchor, Anchor.fm. Yeah, Anchor.fm is where you can find it. And you can also use the hashtag AskWeldon on Twitter. And you can also catch the show live and ask your questions directly to me before and after the show, twitch.tv/mindgamesweldon. I think that's about it. I'm back from the Grand Canaries. I think that I have a little bit of sun on my skin, I hope. It was 3 days in the sunlight. I slathered myself with sunscreen, and I only laid out a few hours every single day so that I didn't burn. But it was fun to do yoga on the beach. They had a pretty junky weight room, so I couldn't really do much as far as lifting. Mostly just hung out with my wife without any kids around and practiced my Spanish. Read a lot of books. So that was my vacation. And now I'm back. Got a new streaming schedule, by the way. So if you are in North America, you can finally catch me live in the evenings. If you're in Europe, sorry, I'm kind of throwing you guys out to dry. We're streaming now at 4 a.m. Other than that, no new announcements, so I want to hop into the show. I'm going to play the questions first, the audio questions here, and then I will do the 2 text questions that we have afterwards. All right. Perfect time for my phone to freeze. So while I'm waiting for the audio questions to load up, what's up with you guys? How are you doing, YouTube audience? Hit me up in the comments down below and tell me what you did this week. I'm really curious. I have been putting out content, I think, pretty regularly on my vacation. I couldn't stream, and so I put out a couple of videos. Make sure to check those out. One of them is a 1.5 hour long VoD review of an LCS game, League of Legends. So I'm going to be doing one of those a week. And then the other one was a commentary about Overwatch. What the one thing Overwatch League is missing. You can find them on my channel. I would link them up down below, but I know I'm not going to go and do that, so oh well. I mean, you know how you link them in the video, but you can't do that anymore. You can only put them on the end screens. So anyway, here we go. First question. See if I can get this overlay to work. Bam.
Hey, Weldon, I'm a Diamond 3 Riven main, and my question is, how do I train myself to make critical outplays? For example, when I see other Challenger streamers who play the same champion as me, they do some crazy outplays. For example, in situations where I would have died 100%, say they get dived early game under their tower, they get 1 kill and survive instead. So how do I train myself to make these kind of outplays?
Okay. Fantastic question, Joey. Thank you for this. So this is exciting because I actually have tried to train myself to do this, and so I have a little bit of experience, and I know how the system works in terms of how it is that you should train this. So first of all, I want to explain what's going on here. If you have ever seen a parade and you've ever seen those horses going down the street, then you know that they have blinders on, right? And the point is to cut out extra sensory input that might make them too much sensory input for them to handle, right? To keep the blinders on so they don't see crazy stuff out the side of their window, so they don't freak out and kick out the side of their eyes, not their window. Out the side of their eyes, so they don't freak out and kick to the side, or go crazy. And essentially, when you or I or any athlete gets into a situation that they cannot yet master every single variable, that they do not have a pattern for internally, you can really only focus on the number of things that your brain can handle and process at the same time. And so you put on artificial blinders until you narrow down to just a few things. It's kind of like panicking, kind of like choking, but the reality is it's skill. It's a skill that you need to train, and it's basically building a pattern. So the fundamental problem with these outplay situations is that they don't happen very often. And so the more experience you have, the better. But experience does not always teach. If you can have experience after experience after experience, and if you aren't focused on improving through them, then you just kind of hit a stasis. So not only is it there's not a lot of time to train these, or not a lot of opportunities to train these, but also most people are not training them when they do have the opportunity. So 2 things you can do. First of all, you should be aiming for getting into situations that require an outplay. So for example, when I have basically mastered the combos for a champion, and I feel like I've mastered a lot of lanes, and it's pretty, I wouldn't say easy for me to play, but I would say it's I don't need to think anymore to do a lot of the basic combos for the champion. Then I will move into what I call basically outplay phase, where I will strive to draw jungle pressure and prepare myself for the 1v2. I will always be thinking, okay, if they're here right now, if they're here right now, if they're here right now, what do I do and how do I do this? And always try to be ready for these kinds of outplays or drawing people into turret, right? So first of all, you have to mentally set the stage. You have to say like, okay, this is what my intention is. And when you see somebody diving you, instead of panicking, like, oh my gosh, am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? Be like, yes, another chance to do this, another attempt at training the skill. The second thing you have to do once you get to those moments is you need to open the blinders, okay? You need to try to be very calm with your decision making and think about every single action. You're like, okay, here's how I'm going to do this. Basically, I would say add a hesitation buffer before every button press. And think, do I really want to press this button now? And try to get really intentionally into your play, and make sure to try to see everything. Like look at both champions. Think like where their skill shot's going to come, where should I path, and essentially you're forcing yourself to try to imagine how it is that you're going to dance between these two and get the outplay. And then you're going to fail. Okay, so that's pretty regular. I failed a bunch of times the first times I tried this. And then I noticed that I was able to start doing the things, obviously not like Faker, but if you look at Perks and Faker and Double Lift, one thing you'll see in common is that when somebody joins in with their lane, they don't panic, and they don't forget about skill shots from one champion in favor of skill shots from another champion. They dodge both of them. And so you'll notice that you'll be thinking with an extra trajectory. You'll be thinking more like you're facing Vel'Koz and less like you're facing one champion and then the other champion, but both at the same time. And that is kind of how you need to think. That's the patterns you need to download. Is you need to be able to dodge 2 skill shots at the same time and try to hit 2 champions with at the same time with your skills, and these kinds of things. So once you fail, as you inevitably will, then you must replay it in your mind and think, this is what I should have done at these junctures. Not only the ones where you succeeded, not only I hit them both with a knock-up, but I could have done that a little better, and then I missed with this. Not just the part that you missed, but also the part that you hit. Think of how you could have optimized it, or something else you could have done, or some other maybe combination of moves you could have used to free up the skill that you needed at a particular time to dodge a certain skill shot, etc. So I want you to review every single outplay immediately after it happens in your mind while you're in your death chamber, and try to play it through and think like, how could I have done that better? The other thing you can do is you can review them after the game, but it's really important to get them like immediately post hoc, essentially. I think that's about it. I have other advice, champion-specific advice, but that should get you started. The keys here are to increase the amount of times you get to practice outplays, number 1, and to really focus on training them when you do them by taking the blinders off, trying to focus on as many signals and sensory input as you can so that you can try to essentially not narrow your focus down and choke. All right, I hope that is helpful, and best of luck. Okay, next question is from David Chinnery.
Hello, Weldon. This is a question that I have. It's more like along the lines of something I've had with a debate with another player. he kind of believes that 1v1s are extremely effective. Well, just beneficial. In my opinion, I feel like they haven't been super as beneficial in Halo 5 as they could be or have been in the past, like Halo 3, Halo 2 Anniversary, Halo Reach. They were a lot more. They meant a lot more than they do in Halo 5, in my opinion. Just because of the way the game is so like fast paced, and it's just like it's really hard to get yourself in a situation where like you just don't have teammates to help you in a one-on-one gunfight. You have so many different options to escape in Halo 5, in my opinion. But I'm willing to hear what you would have to say about in defense to 1v1s and in defense to having a four-man team that works together with you over film.
All right. Let me add the question. Okay, David, thank you for the question. So, one-on-ones, this has been actually a debate. If we look at the debate in other games, it looks like this. Why should I play solo queue in League of Legends versus scrim with my team? Why should I play one-on-ones in Halo versus just playing online or playing with my team? Basically, it comes down to repetition. One of the reasons to do a smaller subset or a microcosm of the full game, one of the reasons that you would do solo queue in League of Legends or a one-on-one in Halo 5 or play against a bot in StarCraft. The reasons that you do these microcosms of the game is to increase the speed at which you can repeat skills. So, of course, when you do a drill, first of all, you should think of them as drills. You're not going to be practicing the full competitive game in all its glory. And in esport, there's this diminishing returns when you think about training. So in traditional sport, you can't always just play like a game of 10 versus 10 soccer or football, European football. It's just not possible. Like you can't get enough people to just always train that. And even if you could, you wouldn't be able to train all of the skills in as many times as you would running drills or training practices. And so in esport, we don't actually have the ability to drill like we do in traditional sport. And so oftentimes it's much better to train how you're going to play the full game, to scrim with a team, to spend all day, hours and hours a day training with your team against other teams in order to improve. However, first of all, that's not always possible. Okay? You can't always end up training with your team. So sometimes you have to hedge your bets and you have to do the second or the third best kind of training. Secondly, it's not always motivating. Sometimes you need to add some spice to your brain to even think about focusing better. So motivation is the key to learning. And if your motivation is low, you need to be varying your activities in order to keep your brain interested and to kind of like break through plateaus. And the final thing is that there is some argument to being able to increase the amount of times you get to, for example, have your gun out and shooting at somebody when you're in a 1v1 versus when you're in a team game. And in particular, practicing your aim or practicing outplays. Basically, there's scenarios that you can see happen with much higher frequency in a one-on-one than in a team game, and it's your ability to practice those fundamental skills that is increased because you get sheer volume training on them. And that is literally one of the most powerful, I would say, excuses for one-on-ones. And in League of Legends, it's the same thing. If you're learning a new lane, what we'll see is we'll see a pro call up another pro, and he'll say, hey, can we play like 10 one-on-ones? And they'll just play from level 0 to 3 or 0 to 5, one-on-one in a lane, and they'll try to figure out how to survive the early lane or how to combo, at what level they peak, when they should back, just purely the lane. Okay, and this is really a useless way to play if you think about the team game, because there's always map play involved. But you have to get the fundamentals out of the way so that you don't have to think about these things in a match, so that you can then focus on higher order processes. So that is the justification and the reason to train one-on-ones in pretty much any esport. But make sure if you have the opportunity to do team game or team training instead, that you should pretty much always take it. I mean, especially if you're not a pro. If you're a pro, sometimes we would like cancel scrims, a third block of scrims to like do some solo queue or let people kind of train how they want. But if you're in an amateur setting and you have the opportunity to train with your team, it's really hard to get a team together and then train with another team. And I would say always take that opportunity. If you can get some one-on-ones, do them too. I mean, there's The only detriment to doing one-on-ones is if it draws time away from your team training or your ladder play online. And if that's the case, if you can just schedule it for later, like just do both. There's no reason not to do both. All right, I hope that was helpful. And thank you, David, for the question. Okay, you guys, the last 2 questions are text questions, so I'm going to go ahead and read them out, and we'll kind of burn through them and then get back to the live audience. Those of you watching on YouTube, make sure you check it out on Twitch if you want to hang out with us. I forgot to also mention that I actually did document my entire vacation on Instagram and on Snapchat stories. So if you're not following me on Instagram or on Snapchat, then you missed out on the beach and all the glorious amazingness that was the Canary Islands in winter. It's pretty cold there, like a solid freezing 25 degrees Celsius, which is like a nice, 80 mid 80s in Fahrenheit. Horrible, I know, but it was definitely worth the trip. Okay, where are these Twitter questions? Here they are. The first question, I may have already done this one on a previous show. I seem to recognize it, but I'm going to throw it in here anyway because what's happening is as I cut and paste these questions over, they're not actually cutting. They're just copying and pasting, which is maybe a default of the Google Sheets. But anyway, I didn't notice until today that they're not disappearing when I actually cut them over. So instead of going back and looking to make sure that I answer this question before, I'm just going to do it again because it cannot hurt to have the question 2 times in a row. Oh, I see the question now. I scrolled back. It's a slight variant of this question, so it's not the same. Good. All right. Elder Dragon asks on Twitter, I have ADHD. Can I use the Mac program to just generally improve my focus, or do I need to choose an area to focus my improvement on at first? Okay, good question. So for those of you who aren't aware, what he's talking about, the Mac program is my mindfulness acceptance commitment training program. It's the training program that I use to support my brand, to support my efforts, to support this channel, to support everything I do. It's basically me trying to figure out how to be able to train individuals again, because I really only train teams now. I can't afford, or most people can't afford, to hire me as an individual trainer. And so I thought, let me create as a video training course all the programs that I do with the pro teams, such as with CLG and TSM and a little bit with G2. And this is the program. It's like about 50 videos right now, and this year I'm going to be renovating it for the 4th time. This is the 3rd iteration of it. And it's basically just an online video training course. I think that's the best way to describe it. And it's really cheap, obviously, because I'm trying to get it out there. I'd rather do a lot of sales than a few sales at a high price, because that means more people are being helped. So the question is, if Elder Dragon here is ADHD, can he use Mac to just generally improve his focus and his training, or does he need to improve an area of focus first? So the mind learns focus in specific skills. So for example, if you're really good at going to the gym, you learn to focus really hard at the gym on that particular pain. But let's say if you start jogging, you might suck at it. Well, that's a physical transfer. So whereas let's say you're having a fight with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, you might suck at withstanding emotional pain, even though you can more or less say that the tolerance of a physical pain and the tolerance of an emotional pain are similar in the brain, in terms of like your choice and your volition and your agency in doing that. The skill set needed is a little bit different because you base it on your experience. And so what Elder Dragon here is asking is, can I just improve my focus over my whole life generally, or do I need to choose an area? And the answer is you don't need to choose an area. You can do Mac, and you can actually start to see how it is that you would transfer your focus from study over to your focus to gaming, over to your focus in the gym, because that is exactly what this program is designed for. This program was designed because I was very frustrated with the fact that, we, meaning like elite athletes, would develop this very strong capability for focus and tolerance of emotional and physical pain in a specific area, and wouldn't be able to translate it 7 inches to this other area of our life and apply discipline there. And so that is, yeah, so you don't need to focus on a specific area for improvement, but you do need to have a specific area that you're using Mac for motivation. You can't just do the Mac program and be like, oh, I'm just going to do it every day because I feel like it, and it's going to generally improve focus in general areas of my life. Woo. That's never going to work because you're not going to be motivated. I recommend using Mac to train a specific thing in your life that you want to be better at, because you need motivation to learn. You need motivation to drive you to build habits and all of these things. So I recommend, for example, esport. This is what Mac was designed for, was specifically for esport. You use esport as a very motivating thing, and the ladder climb is a very motivating thing to drive you to kind of like do this self-improvement. Or you can use, I don't know, math class. If you're super into math and you really want to get better at math class, you could use the same thing there. It's kind of up to you, I guess. But anyway, that's the idea. That's the basic idea, and hopefully that answers your question. What? Okay, I just closed my my window, you guys. Okay, and the last question is going to be coming to us also on Twitter in a couple seconds after I open my browser again, because it just shut. Because I'm an idiot, and I hit Control W, which, by the way, shuts your browser. Just FYI. All right, here we are. Final question. Is there any software that I used on TSM that could improve in any way the standard League of Legends replay? All right, so since this question was asked, we've actually had a Riot Games released the replay feature into the client. So now we have an actual replay feature into the client. You can download your replays. You can watch them in the game there. I think that that's a great place to watch your replays. I don't think there's really a way to improve on VoD replays right now. I think that YouTube is the place that I'm most capable of. Like, I know all the controls. I think in the in-game client, I know all the controls for fast forward and rewind and everything. You can highlight your champion. You can move around. You can look. The only tool that is actually better is Shadow. So if you look at my most previous VoD review that I did on my channel, I think at TSM versus FlyQuest, you will see lol.shadow.gg is essentially a replay study tool, but it's only available for pro teams. It's like a analytics software, and I'm using it for my content because I have basically permission to use it as a way to help, showcase it and promote it as to how professional analysts would use it to professionally analyze a match. But I think it's a bit overkill for the individual. Like, you don't need to study the things that the analysis tool actually opens up. What you need to do is focus on learning your champion, basically, and stealing moves from pro players and then trying to see where you messed up with your decision making. And you can see all your decision making on a regular VoD. So yeah, I don't think there's any software right now that I would recommend that would strictly improve VoD review. I think plays.tv used to be the de facto standard, but after Riot released replays in the client, I think that that's much better, because you can shift around the map and you can see other people's, perspectives. You can see, for example, you could hide the fog of war on yourself, and you could see if your opponent, made a decision based on knowledge of your wards or whatnot. And so, yeah, all these things are not really anything better than what Riot already offers. Make sure to check out that lol.shadow.gg video that I put up on YouTube, because I think it's really interesting to see what a professional analyst would use and look at in terms of how to analyze a play. You can look at the deltas of experience gain and experience loss from one team to another, or from a full aggregate team to the other aggregate team, like from two time points in the game, which I think is a key ability that any analysis software needs in order to determine whether a play was functionally objectively better or worse than another play. But like I don't think you need those in your one-on-one games. So that's all I have today, you guys. I hope that the show was useful for you. I hope that it was interesting. We don't have a lot of questions. Make sure that you help me with that problem. Hit up the Anchor app and hit up Twitter and make sure to put in some questions. Thank you to Pedro, Elder Dragon, David, and Joey who came in today with the questions, and I look forward to tomorrow. If we're going to do the show 5 days a week, I'm going to need a steady stream of inquiry. So I know David's been churning out the questions. You know, I have 3 or 4 in my inbox from him every single day. But for the rest of you, let me see if I can do this right. Hit up the Anchor app and call in your question. Let me know what you want to know. And as far as you know, my shout out today, I think that I already talked about the Mac program a lot in the question with Elder Dragon. So make sure if you want to check that out, you go to mindgames.gg/Mac. As always, this is the Ask Weldon show, so you can use the code AskWeldon to give yourself a $5 discount. That way I know that you came from here, and that's how I track that you were paying attention and that you purchased the show from YouTube or Twitch. And yeah, other than that, make sure to subscribe if you want more shows like this in the future. And I will talk to you tomorrow.